They are the why, build connections first, then influence, dig deeper, and scenario planning. Let me explain. Tell us about the time when you inspired an individual or a team to do things differently or change their point of view. This is a typical question that comes up very often in competency-based interviews for all roles, predominantly senior roles. This question is usually designed to assess our ability to influence, to think big, how we engage with stakeholders, and how we drive action. I have created this video from a personal perspective. I work full-time as an HR business partner, and over the last 10 years, I have worked for a number of organizations in various sectors and industries. I have also worked with a number of stakeholders, and some of them have been super challenging to work with. This approach, the why, build connections first, then influence, dig deeper, and scenario planning is something I genuinely have used quite a lot, and it has never failed me as a model. The why. If I have ideas or views, or sometimes even strong views as to how certain things could be done better or what is actually going on in a particular business area, I tend to equip myself with lots of data. I use surveys, feedback, I research, I use evidence-based approach, I reach out to other similar organizations to see what they've done. And once I pull it all together, I'm in a much better position to actually present something to my stakeholders that's quite credible, informative, research-based, and it will definitely enable me to have these conversations in a much more constructive and collaborative way. Build connections first and then influence. This is by far the most important step when it comes to influencing. If you want to influence and if you want to be someone who is well respected, where people will really listen to you, it is important that you invest in those personal relationships. Every time I change a role or organization, I spend good quality time on establishing these relationships. I would do a stakeholder map. I would want to understand teams I need to work with. I would be quite curious. I would initiate one-to-one meetings. I would ask for coffees. I would spend some time with them, to work alongside them. And I would simply behave in a curious way to really understand their journey, knowledge, and experience, and ask lots of questions. In my experience, people like to talk about themselves, so turning up with lots of questions should be quite easy for most of us. Even for the most introverted people out there, if you think about questions up front and you turn up with a list of questions, even if you have a list next to you in front of these people, you will come across as someone who is prepared, who really cares about their business, and who really genuinely wants to understand them and supports them as best as you can. I would also like to add, if there is something you would like to talk about at your senior leadership team meeting or other bigger group meetings, and you're not really sure as to how it's going to land, or if you're quite familiar with who they are and how they normally react in these kind of situations, but if you're quite keen to get support on the day, I would invest so much time before that group meeting takes place in having those one-to-ones initially, where I could pitch some of these ideas and concepts to them to really seek their feedback and advice. And I would potentially say, actually, I have an agenda item at our next meeting to really talk about this, and I really wanted to give you a heads up as to what I'm planning to propose, but I really would like to seek your views and opinion as well, so I can incorporate it into my presentation. And this works really well on a human level. People love when they're respected, when their views and concerns are taken into account. And actually, you can refer to that in your group meeting, and you could say that you've consulted more widely with the group, and now is an opportunity for them collectively as a team to really talk about that particular topic. Dig deeper. Once we've established relationships, once we've got all the data, research, surveys, and everything else, now is the time to actually dig deeper collectively when it comes to a particular subject. This potentially means you'll have to actually facilitate a particular meeting, or if you have an agenda item at a particular meeting, you'll have to encourage a conversation about your particular topic. I again continue to behave in a quite curious way in this meeting during my slot. I would continue to ask questions. The goal is really for the team to enjoy the conversation and collaboratively arrive at some sort of solutions or options, or at least have realization moments that there are certain options and things that are happening in the business that could be available to them for their consideration. Once I've gone through certain ideas, concept, research, I would often start by asking certain questions such as, I wonder if we do this, what the outcome could be. What, in your opinion and experience, could happen if this is done this way or that way? And that is just another way to really facilitate any group meeting and for them to feel part of the session, that they are contributing and that their views are taken into account. I'm also mindful of the tone. My job is really not to come across as in you must do it my way or no way. It is quite important that this works for the business and that I am acting as someone who is an enabler rather than a blocker. Genuine concerns and being willing to help really should be recognized by many in the room, and that will by default give you that buy-in you're looking for a lot easier. Scenario planning. If this is something I have initiated, or even if I didn't initiate, but I was simply asked by my director to look at a particular problem on a deeper level and research further about, I would continue to behave in a helpful way. I would offer to pull together a presentation or options paper or business case with lots of different scenarios in there, with lots of options, recommendations, and narrative and data that could be used for the next group meeting for them to collectively look at and discuss as to how they want to proceed. That's it. This is what I do really in simple terms. There is nothing else really out there. I tend to approach my working and building working relationships through a common sense lens. I genuinely want to be helpful, and I really always try to understand other people I work with, and I try to position myself in their shoes to understand not only their personalities, but also their business area, their customers, what they're accountable for, that I always take into account when it comes to anything I really pitch. If you have enjoyed this video, you can find many other videos on my channel, and if you have any questions, please let me know in comments. I would happily engage, and I would really want to understand how you actually influence and build connections in your roles and your organizations. See you in the next video. Bye for now.